Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beefing with Ben. It's been a while, so we're gonna try and get into the groove of things. Hopefully, we won't have any ring rust. Joining me today, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Gerald Meerschaert III, UFC Middleweight. You may also know him as the world's toughest alto sax player. Gerald, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Hey everyone, just wanted to remind you all to take a moment to like the video, leave a comment. It really does help us out with the algorithm. If you'd like to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification, which will give you updates on when new content is posted. If you want to support the site, you could check out our Patreon. You'll get access to exclusive content, access to the Discord, and much more. And now, back to the video.
So it's pretty much going to go like this. We're going to start with the original flavor. Have a few bites. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you're tasting, and then we're gonna. While you're enjoying, I'm just gonna jump right into the questions. So, cheers.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So you got some smoke.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of spice in there. It's not like hot, but there's some kind of spice. Definitely like a touch of like soy or Worcestershire sauce in there.
You have been correct on all counts so far. Every single one of those things is true. All right. So first question I want to ask you. You didn't really have an extensive wrestling or jiu-jitsu or any sort of like combat sports background aside from some taekwondo. I always like to go back to the beginning, and I know you were going to become a music teacher, which you've talked about in the past. So what drove you to go do MMA as a career? And the way you felt at that time, now that you're you're much older than you were then, you've had this whole career to this point. What do you feel about it now? How have your feelings changed? And if so, how have they changed?
Well, I think one of the biggest reasons I got into it, other than like, wanting to prove myself as a young man, like wanting to prove that, I am a man, I'm tough, all that normal young man stuff. A lot of it was like the people that were around both things. And like there were some good people in the music program. There were some, there were some great teachers, but by and large, I actually felt like the better group of people, like the nicer, more morally sound and just group of people were the guys at the gym. I had seen, I literally saw like, well, they weren't gonna fight, but like I saw these two guys get after each other that were like literally already had teaching jobs other places. They're literally in charge of teaching kids and they can't control their own emotion at like practice. And they're in front of other people too, and like another teacher, and that was one big thing for me where I saw that, and then I see all the guys at the gym like try to beat the crap out of each other. But then after that, it's all smiles and hugs, and there's guys from all different backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? Like it just they seem like the more, as weird as it sounds, the more well-adjusted group of people, and I really gravitated. I was like, well, if I'm gonna follow this path in my life, I want to look like those guys. I don't want to look like these other people who seem to be not as mature as I think for their age.
And now that you're older, has that perspective changed in any way, looking back?
I mean, it's there's good and bad people in both, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously, especially MMA's got so much more media coverage now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything you do, right? There's going to be some really good people and there's going to be some really not so good people. Um, I think by and large, it's probably easier to get along with most people that practice combat sports because we're all very aware of our shortcomings and that, as much as people might say you're the man at something, that you in fact are not the man and you will never be the man because there's always going to be somebody that's going to knock you down a peg. And like, we deal with failure straight in our face at like the most basic core level every day. And I think that, it really grounds you and makes you humble as a human being and an individual. And it's just something that you don't get in a lot of other occupations. Now, looking back, even at that instance, like there's probably some stuff I was missing. And like I said, there were some great people in that stuff too. But I feel like by choosing the path I did, it was a lot harder, but I think I'm better for it. And I think I got to see a lot more of the world and a lot more different types of people. And I met a lot of people I wouldn't have met had I been in kind of like a closed system had I stayed in school. I basically never would have left a classroom. I would have been graduated high school, I would have been in college, I would have been teaching in a classroom. Like it's kind of, you can go on vacation and stuff like that. And like I had teachers that they even did that. They kind of broke the cycle and they would go off for a year or two, or they would like do other jobs and explore things. But, to be caught up in that, like literally just in school your entire life, kind of glad I didn't do that.
Well, it's definitely what most would perceive as a more exciting lifestyle. So jumping into your MMA career, you had a much longer path than most to the UFC. And typically what we'll sometimes see with like guys who have long, extensive careers in the regional scenes or in organizations that just aren't as large as the UFC, they'll only come towards the tail end of their career and have a couple fights and then really not have much, they'll just be released after a couple of, mixed results or whatever it might be. But you were able to, have that extensive career. And also now you have a successful and pretty long UFC career at this point. Do you think that that longer path to the UFC helped your career once you were there, or did it hinder it? And what's your thought process behind why?
I think for me, obviously, I think it helped, but that's just for me. I'm not as slow as everyone says I am. I'm not, stronger than people. You know what I'm saying? But I also don't have like those outlier gifts. Like I'm definitely I'm not the strongest, but I'm pretty fast. I'm pretty strong. You know what I mean? I got a real good squeeze. There are a lot of things I have, but I think, for me, I just got to do a lot of something to get good at it, like most people. But, the longer and I do something more comfortable I get with it, the better I seem to get. So I think for me personally, it helped a lot. Some guys come in a lot less experience and they do well, but a lot of guys that come in with a lot less experience, they've been doing something else. Like you said before, I didn't really do anything combat sports related truly until I started MMA. You know what I mean? A lot of other guys, they either wrestled since they were like 5 years old. They did kickboxing before this. They were, jujitsu champs and all kinds of stuff. I didn't do that. So I had to condense, decades of experience into this finite amount of time. And that resulted in me having, what I got like 50 fights now officially. Like I had to, kind of had to cram for the test, so to speak.
I like how you threw in the 50 fights officially. So we're gonna have another flavor. I want you to run the gamut while we're together. So I've got the mesquite teriyaki here. Do you still have that one, or did you do, or is that one that you dug into?
I have that one.
All right. So this one is probably the most savory flavor I make.
Obviously, you got the smoke and the teriyaki. There's definitely more soy sauce in there, and there. Oh, what was that at the beginning? You put some brown sugar in this. I feel like somewhere in there. Yep.
You're quite good at this. It's actually quite impressive. You're hitting every flavor note. Every single flavor note you're hitting correctly. And for two of the flavors so far.
My guilty pleasure fight week, and just in general, is cooking shows. So I picked
Well,
got something else in here too. There's some kind of maybe a hint of cayenne pepper.
it's actually kind of freaky how you keep guessing. you guess like 6 of the ingredients in this flavor. I'm actually quite okay. I'm not sure if this is too basic or if you're just really that good. Okay. I'm gonna okay, if you go 3 for 3, if you can guess all that stuff in the next one, like I know you're gonna guess one of them, but I'm curious if you'll be able to get like all the flavor notes in the next one. So now you got to the UFC, and you were in Rufus Sport, and you're currently with Killcliff. I wanted to actually ask you about your recent streak, which is currently the best of your UFC career, and we definitely see a lot of really remarkable improvements over the course of your career. So I wanted to know, your path to the point where you are now. What do you feel that you've been able to pick up as you went along and had some of those camp switches? What was the reasons why you did make the camp switches that you did, and getting to the point you are now?
Well, biggest thing that happened for it again is nothing negative. I got nothing bad to say. Good terms, guys, but it was just really a lot of the more experienced guys, but especially all the big guys. Everybody just kind of left or retired. And not that they left either, but like one of my guys that I used to fly up all the time, JP St. Louis, he moved to Orlando to be kind of closer to some of his family. And then, Mike Rose was a really big part of my, journey at Rufus Sport, and he had fought in the UFC before and fought in a lot, Bellator and stuff like that. He kind of just moved in another direction and kind of moved on, and he's doing firefighting now. And, pretty much everybody either did that or they left and moved somewhere. And it was just one of those things where it was like Rufus Sports is kind of in a rebuilding phase. They got a lot of young guys, a lot of the Showtime guys that are coming up. And I just need big bodies. Like, you know what I mean? I kind of, maybe that fight against Jocko kind of forced it a little bit by not looking somewhere else and like thinking maybe because I was already on a hot streak, right? But I think it kind of showed in that fight, like you can only do so much by yourself, not having the resistance of like the bigger guys to go with all the time. It's a piece you need sometimes. So that was the big thing. And now I know like Jared Gordon I used to train with, he's at Killcliff or was Sanford, now Killcliff. Brendan Allen I used to train with a lot of time. That's where he had gone. So they said nothing but good things about that place. And I'd met Henry Hoof before, seemed like a really nice guy. And, I went out there and I loved it.
Well, I mean, Hoof is someone who happens to be our side, does have a lot of respect for a lot of the things that he's able to give to fighters, and the way he hones their craft while he's there, particularly the way he's able to give really good functional striking games to grapplers, really good grapplers. So yeah, it basically checks out with everything we basically know already. The next question I wanted to ask you is about your most recent performance, which was fantastic. It was essentially a comprehensive beatdown for 3 rounds. Like you were in control the entire time. It was probably your most varied striking performance. I mean, you were hitting him at all levels with a bunch of different attacks, and you were using this awesome proactive defense where you were kind of pivoting out and ducking under the counter as he was coming forward and circle back out to this. So what did you just hit this is from being able to work with guys your size, but what else were you working on in the camp? What did you see in the tape for Bruno Silva that made you have such a essentially perfect game plan and execution?
I'm really heavy puncher, and he does his best work with a stationary target. And a lot of guys that, the knockout of Jordan Wright, they clinch up. Jordan's actually doing okay in the clinch for a second, but he's, he makes the mistake that a lot of guys make. He just hangs on the head without any kind of movement. Bruno's moving into him. There's no he's not oscillating or gyrating the head. He's not moving him side to side to throw off his balance. So Bruno can set his feet and swing at arm's reach. When he fought Wellington Turman, he was pinned down on the ground after he tried to wrestle him. Similar but different with Andrew Sanchez. Andrew tried to wrestle his butt off, and then he got tired in the 3rd round. And when he was against the cage and couldn't move anywhere, then the dude just unloads. And the same thing with Pereira. They had such an exciting fight because they fought this close to each other. You know what I mean? If you are right in front of him and you don't move laterally at all, and you just kind of like, even Pereira, he's a really tall guy. He's really good. Obviously, 2 division champ and glory and all that. But he's so long that he doesn't have to move out of the way usually, and he's not used to moving out of the way. Whereas Bruno Silva's like, I want you in front of me, and I'm going to try and run you over. So, it's kind of like an old boxing adage. If you stand in front of the train, eventually the train's going to catch up to you. So that's why you step to the side and let the train pass you by. So a lot of people I saw commenting about how Bruno looked bad. He looked tired, da da da. You can go 3 rounds throwing heat like that with a guy like Pereira if they don't make you chase them or make you miss. Because when you hit something, and like a lot of guys wouldn't know this if they don't actually train or fight, right? If you hit someone and you make contact, even if they block it, you get some of that recoil back and you're kind of, it's easier to get your hands back in place. If you overswing and miss all the time and you got to go catch that guy, that takes a lot out of you. And now all of a sudden he can't set his feet and just keep throwing how he wants because he usually just settles in and swings. So, I mean, it's not like I'm not saying that Frey didn't maybe do a little damage to him and help me out in a sense, but I think it was more my game plan, and I knew like stick and move, always fake, make him feel uncomfortable, never let him really get my rhythm down. Like you said, mix it up all levels. I was kicking the leg, I was kicking the head. I wanted to punch the body a little bit more, but he was smart about it. He would dip his head really low, which help me evade because I could get away. You start hinging at the waist, you can't really move your feet now, right? So I can get out of there, but I can't punch to the body as much because you're going to come right over the top of that overhand. So that was something I noticed in a lot of his fights. And sure enough, I practiced staying back, and they have us move our feet a lot at Kill Cliff. And, I always had a good left kick. I could always fight long. I just usually took the approach of I have to go forward and make it a fight. And, as more and more comfortable I get, the more fights I have, I'm like, I'm actually pretty good at striking. Like, I don't really need to make it a knockdown, drag out fight if I don't want to.
Well, so after first, I would say that what I heard after all that was that I think we need to actually have Glory crown you as their current middleweight champion. I mean, listen, the results speak for themselves. So now I wanted to talk to you about something that I feel like really interests me and might uniquely interest you, just grappling and MMA in general. It feels like a lot of times we'll watch fights and we'll see high-level fighters trying to execute submissions or initiate grappling exchanges, and they seem to lack, sometimes basic hand fighting skills. There's just a lack of defensive or offensive awareness sometimes. And I hate to say this, but a distinct inability to finish guillotines, particularly with the arm in. You don't have any of these issues, and your grappling is so fundamentally solid. And every single time that I see you grapple, whenever there's like a submission or like your back takes are fantastic, and your back control is fantastic. The reverse hook, as you know. So what do you attribute this to? Because I still can't figure out why black belts who are top 10 fighters can't seem to finish a guillotine.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think part of it is I've only ever grappled in MMA. Like, I've never done jiu-jitsu without the thought that someone's trying to punch me in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a little bit. Now, the mechanics you could argue are the same, yes. But as far as where your entry is going to be, where you're going to end up, a lot of the small in-between spaces, those are going to be a lot different in an MMA fight, or even in training, than they are in jiu-jitsu. Partially because a lot of the defense you're going to get, you wouldn't really see in a jiu-jitsu match because it's either kind of wrong, or they don't know the right defense, so they just start spazzing out. And if you're sweaty enough, it can be hard to keep a hold of somebody. Or it might be a thing where, jiu-jitsu a lot of times it's like, well, I'm gonna defend this, and then I'm gonna get back to like full guard, or I'm gonna defend this and get back to a neutral position or possibly sweep. Whereas in a fight, it's like I just gotta get the hell out. Like, I have no concern for anything that's going on, and that's just a different type of resistance. Another thing is, I think a lot of guys with the guillotines especially have fallen in love. And then, again, this isn't wrong, right? But a lot of guys have fallen in love with the guillotine with like full guard, legs wrapped around the other guy. And I had a guy ask me about this. He's like, well, how come when you do your guillotines, you never like go to full guard like that? And it was like, for me, I like to be more mobile. right? If so, like there's a trade-off there. I might not have you as locked down in the position because I'm not in full guard crossing my legs and I can't crank the same way, but I can make sure I can get on top. I can make sure that I can reverse you into an anaconda, or at least reverse and come on top of you, or stay on top in general. And if you do get out of it, at the very least, it's a scramble. It's not I'm stuck on bottom and guard, which isn't the worst thing in the world for me, but like, why would I risk giving you a good position to posture up and just start cracking me in the face for no reason? And there's very few guys. Charles Oliver is one guy who has a really good guillotine from there, but there's very few guys who can pull guard and get that guillotine. And even when I would coach guys, I'd say like, look, if you know you have it, like you have it, and you better know you have it, then you can jump guard like that. But now you're basing your approach on either A, I'm that much better, and or B, the other guy sucks. So I don't like to, well, I can't really approach fights in the UFC as if the other guy is not just as good as I am. So why wouldn't I always give myself an out? You know what I mean? I always make sure I'm like, my back is to the door, so to speak. So I always have another move.
Jumping off of that, I want to actually touch on that point where you said, if you know you have it, because that's always the biggest pet peeve of mine, is that it seems like they'll sit back for guillotines because they're in the position and it's kind of there, but they don't actually lock up the choke itself until they're already on the mat. And that doesn't work against somebody good, right? Like it just will not work. You have to lock it up before you're even sitting back. If you can't, then you don't have the choke in the first place. And I just don't get why, like, you've been doing MMA your whole life and you know that. And I've never seen you, you don't just pull guard or put guillotines or any of your chokes like that. So what's the reason why we see it such a pervasive at such a high level?
Yeah. So the one time I kind of did that, like the Stoltzfus fight, right? I fell out a couple times. I didn't have the neck, and I tried to fall to the side where I would still have like a move off of that. So I didn't lock my guard right, and I knew I didn't have the choke quite in, but I tried to like almost fall into a sweep, so to speak. But that's just because it was like, for whatever reason, I was just dead tired, and that can be part of the reason, right? But outside of that, my guess from the outside looking in would be that either A, you think because you hit it a bunch of times on random people that it's going to work in this fight without accounting for the body type of the people that you usually hit it on. Because that's a really big thing, especially with guillotines, that people don't really account for. Not just if the guy has like a short, stubby neck, but how long are your arms versus how wide are his shoulders and his neck. You know what I'm saying? Because that can have a really big thing. Fought Kevin Holland, I had him gurgling on a guillotine, but his neck was so damn skinny, and the way I attacked it, like there was seriously no more room left to squeeze. Like if he was a little bit, I would have had it for sure, but like there was just, the size of width of his neck and a gap in my arm. There's too much gap. Like I didn't have enough room to finish it anymore. Like it's just one of those things. And then, it's another thing too, where if you come from more the gi background, if you get something like that in the gi, there's a lot of spots where you got a little more give because there's so much fabric and there's a lot gliding out of the way. And even if you do kind of miss it, you might not think about it. It's like, oh, well, maybe I hit like a lapel choke or, Ezekiel choke from bottom or something like that, where in your head, you might have logged that as like, oh, I went to my back and I got a choke, but that's not going to work in a fight. It's not quite the same thing. And that and my biggest pet peeve is guys always, when they do drop down, not only do they not have it, but even if they don't have it quite secure, they always like break my one biggest rule is like, you have to have your armpit like at the base of their neck. It's got to be at the base of the neck. If you're any farther down than that, it is not worth it unless you got like a front headlock, like a chin strap, and you're curling their head. And then at that point, the point isn't to choke them anyway. Then I could see that. But if your armpit's not at the base of their neck and it's like mid neck or back of the head, you're just tired or you just want a quick way out. And you're like, maybe he'll just roll over and give it to me. It's like, no, don't. People are going to roll over and give it to you. Assume that guy's the best dude on earth and you need to like beat him technically and soundly.
Now we're going to ask some questions These are the real hard-hitting questions. How much did it suck to be the dummy for the Pettis Showtime kick before it happened?
It was not fun. It was luckily I was hard enough to like block most of it, but that shit freaked me the hell out because I had I was cross training with them a lot at the time, right? And I basically came there like, you're Benson Henderson. I was like, I can do that. Like, just throw, mid like shoulder level kicks with no setup whatsoever and shoot a bunch of times. Like, that's easy enough. And all of a sudden, like, he's kind of like staying towards the wall. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And I just see this motherfucker like run after me and jump off. And I was like, I did the same thing, but I kept my hand up. I was like, oh shit. So like, look, all right, I'm taking you down again now. Like, fuck this.
Now,
I'd be in a highlight reel.
well, he got it anyway against an unwilling opponent this time too. What was it like training with somebody like Woodley, who's so explosive he can essentially teleport across time and space?
There's very few guys that have certain athletic gifts, and he was definitely one of them. You can see I still got like, I got jerseys of a bunch of cornered. I still got it behind me, but like, man, that especially I distinctly remember. Well, so he fought Lawler when he got the belt, and he fought Hill on his last, like one of the last big defenses, right? And both of those guys are lefties, so I had to beat both of those guys, and it was not fun ever. Lefty righty, that sets you up perfectly for the overhand right, and I know it's coming. And both these dudes stand really upright, and there's like I'm trying like there's only so long I can do that where my face is just out in the open before I like start being smart and crouching down lower, because he wouldn't even try to like sting me that hard, but just standing a certain like, especially like till I'm bouncing around with my head way up in the air, just standing like that, it's like there's no stopping it. There's no good way to like do anything. And I'm not supposed to rest either because he's like Captain Kickboxer. So I'm like, great. All the stuff that I like doing, I can now, which probably helped me later on because now I'm like used to guys like that, right? But and that's and not only is it a lower weight class, but so ridiculously explosive with that first like that initial movement in. It's hard to see, and even if you see it coming, it's like pretty much just gotta like bite on your mouthpiece and brace for impact.
All right. So since next one is going to be a spicy question, well, depending on your answer, might as well go with the with the hot one, the ghost pepper.
Ghost pepper.
Yep. I'm actually changing it up to Carolina Reaper because why not? So this is actually the Carolina Reaper one.
Oh, nice.
I'll send you one when I make another batch. Don't worry.
Well, I was always concerned because sometimes you see like habanero super spicy, and sometimes I have habanero stuff. And it's like this just tastes sweet, no spice. But
this has heat, but not like crazy heat.
Whew.
At the end, it gets a little hot.
It's a little. There's like a dry, savory flavor in there.
Which UFC heavyweight could you beat, and which is the best UFC heavyweight you could beat in a grappling match?
In a grappling match?
Grappling match, and then we'll do a fight.
Man, that's a tough one. I feel like I could beat most of them in a grappling match. Like,
let's go.
If we
the highest rank, let's get the take going. Come on, I want that. Let's go. I'm tagging him. Let's go. We're getting you guys on the UFC event where they do the grappling thing.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Like, I think Francis Ngannou is too strong, and like he might be too long. So, because my whole thing, like, if I'm gonna grapple a heavyweight and it's like 80cc rules, all I got to do is roll underneath him for a leg, really, because like they're not gonna have any idea what to do. But I think his leg might be too long for me to physically get in the right position, and he's too damn strong anyway. like him and Cyril Gane's like probably too. And Cyril Gane actually has some leg locks, so I was like, all right, he's pretty much a little too big for me. But I don't know. I don't know who's below that. Who's like 3 and 4.
Okay, we're looking at the rankings. We're going through everyone. I know that Tai Tuivasa is up there in the top 5. What do you think? Can you beat him in a grappling match?
Him.
You beat him?
Sure. Oh hell yeah, yeah. I mean, he might like get on top of me for a second. Yeah, definitely. I am like so against butt scooting, and I would definitely just butt scoot towards him and roll underneath. Like I could for sure like tattoo Fasa.
The number 3 ranked heavyweight. You heard it here, folks. Gerald Meerschaert calling out Tai Tuivasa for a grappling match. We're going to do ADCC rules to be fair. Because the other 3 guys in the top 5 are Stipe, Curtis Blades, and Sergey Pavlovich. Wrestler, grappler.
Those wouldn't work.
No.
I'll take time. We can do a shoey afterwards.
All right, let's go. This is happening. This is the moment where this will happen. One of the things that I wanted to ask, and are you going to become a music teacher after you retire? I know that you said that you didn't have the best experience when it was happening, but now you're older, you're wiser, you know that there are good people and bad people. So first love can always be rekindled.
I love teaching and coaching, but my plan is when I'm done to open, probably more of a grappling school. My goal is like, I don't have any plans of having like a fight gym. If I happen to have fighters that, enough of them that want to train seriously, then that's not something I would say no to. But otherwise, just, have grappling school kind of close to home, good outlet for people. Like if some guys want to come stop by and learn some stuff for MMA, that's great too. But we'll see how it goes once I'm probably closer to retiring, because right now, I got to be away for like 2 months to get ready for a fight. And it's, you never really know when that's going to be, right? Especially for me, I've gotten a lot better as far as like knowing ahead of time, but it's not like I can plan like a year out or something, you know what I mean? So I don't want to put too many, irons in the fire and like half-ass one or both things. So for now, I'm just a UFC fighter, and then eventually I'll have the gym too.
Says, what do you do generally for recovery? And is one of those things smoking weed?
Not for recovery, only because I can't control my appetite. So that's like after fights, like I'll usually have like some edibles or something, right? And it's it's kind of like anything else. I'll have a couple beers here and there, but I don't like drink a ton. I'll have a couple of edibles, especially after a fight, just to like relax, but I don't do it a lot. And it's not that like I have any feelings about it, like negatively one way or the other. But just for me, if I did it more than once in a great while, I would be like Patty the Batty and blow up to like, 250. I'm saying like it affects people in different ways. And for me, I just cannot stop shoving food in my face. So I got to be really careful about like my timing for that. But it definitely is not like a bad thing. But I did, I got a physical therapist I see, massages are always good. At first I wasn't sure about cupping. I've done it a few times. It seems to help. One thing I've done a lot in Florida for the more intense sessions is I try to do a lot of like the hyperbaric chamber. That seems to help a lot. So, that, and really just getting a consistent sleep schedule. I can't say enough about like making sure you are in bed at the same time every night, and you're getting, it's not always exactly 8 hours, right? But you're at least in bed for a long period of time with the lights off, just relaxing and like trying to get as much sleep as you can as it goes. That I did a lot of that in Florida, and I did a lot of like just walking, like good old fashioned walking. Like guys always talk about they got to get their road work in, and guys want to run like 5 miles and all this stuff. And maybe it's different for me because I have a lot of experience to fall back on, but like 5 miles running versus 5 miles walking is 5 miles. You know what I'm saying? Walk like a mile or two a day, at least once a day, if not twice. as kind of recovery because I'm already, you know, you're bouncing around. It's a lot of foot force contact every day already, just bouncing on the mats. Knees can only take so much. So I would walk. I still get the cardio, still burn the calories. Yeah, and you get some sun out there, especially get your vitamin D, and that seemed to work.
So Gerald, obviously I wanted to say thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to pick your brain about fighting, talk to you about your career and your thoughts about grappling in MMA and which heavyweight you could beat in the grappling match. Obviously, I want you to shout out your socials, sponsors, anybody you want to shout out. But if you had to pick which were your favorite flavors or which was your favorite flavor from the ones you tried, which one would you say was your favorite?
They were all really good. I think, well, there were two that I ate. I don't remember the flavors, but they're they were obviously really good ones. Honestly, I think the OG is really, really good, and I think the ghost pepper, like if you like you said, if you like something spicy, 'cause it has some heat, but it's already like dissipated now. If you want some heat, but you don't want to like regret your life decisions, that's a really, really good one. You type in my name if you can figure out how to spell it. I got an Instagram, Twitter. It's pretty much the two that I'm on when I do actually pay attention to it. Yeah, shout out to Combat Corner. They've been a sponsor for a long time. And something to look out for in the, I don't know when the hell it's actually going to be released. It could be months or longer. I have no idea. But my buddy who I've walked out to one of their band songs before, Noah Leakus, he is in one band. He's in a couple bands, but one band called American Restless. They are recording a song and I will be on it with my saxophone. So if you guys look out for that,
Let's
Restless,
go.
I will be on the song. So it's like a psychobilly song. So if you guys are into like the Reverend Horton Heat or anything like that, that's what it'll sound. Well, that song will sound like.
Very much looking forward to listening to that. Listen, to be fair, the bar for MMA music has been set very low. By your friend in the background there. So anyway, again, thank you so much, Gerald. Everyone make sure that you go and follow him on social media. Thank you all for listening and enjoy and order beef jerky.